Hello?
Iutan na natin sa 9, iutan na 3, 2, 1, iko sa iko. Good afternoon, everyone. We will start this activity with a short prayer. Our loving and merciful God, thank you for the wonderful time that you have given us to listen, to learn, and to be challenged on how can we be able to do our tasks responsibly and be productive even this new normal and difficult times. Teach us to do things according to your will, light our path, and give us strength that we may serve you in righteousness all our days. This is our prayer in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Once again, good afternoon. I would like to acknowledge the presence of our participants, students, faculty, staff, and colleagues. I would like also to inform everyone that you can virtually join us through Facebook Live at our XU Library Facebook page. So, to welcome us, I would like to call in the head of the Reader Services of Silliman University Library, Assistant Professor Rosalina G. Dino.
Hello, everyone. In behalf of our OIC, University Librarian Dr. L. Jude Cleope, I welcome you all in today's eTalk entitled Coping with Stress, a Guide to Mental Wellness. This event today is part of the series of eTalks, a collaboration between Silliman University Library and the Guidance and Testing Division. The essence of this eTalk is to know of our OIC, University Librarian Dr. L. Jude Cleope, I welcome you all in today's eTalk entitled Coping with Stress, a Guide to Mental Wellness. This event today is part of the series of eTalks, a collaboration between Silliman University Library and the Guidance and Testing Division. The essence of this eTalk is to know the importance on how to cope with the stress in this challenging time. The rapid spread of the COVID-19 crisis, people around the globe experience stress in various behavior. One is anxiety that may advance to depression, irritability, moodiness, among others that may lead to self-perceived change in mental health. The current situations affect our work as an employee and student in this university. And so, this e-talk is so timely for all of us. I am sure each and everyone will be enlightened from this presentation, and the guide on mental wellness will surely improve one's well-being. We have a very good and lively speaker today, and so today's e-talk. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Ma'am Dinoy. Thank you, Ma'am Dinoy, for that warm welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to be the moderator of this afternoon's e-talk entitled Coping with Stress, a Guide to Mental Wellness. Stress is part of our lives. We live with it, deal with it, and above all, worry about it. Our way of life, the area in which we live, the economy, and our jobs can cause us stress, and not all of us deals with the same level of stress. So before I formally introduce our speaker this afternoon, there are few rules that we must observe. First, mute your device microphone to avoid unnecessary interruptions.
Mas mandagoy ka.
Second, during the
Wa
presentation,
ko kapaduol nila. Mo
interrupt the
binakangingon nimo.
speaker.
Dili ka magpaduol.
Third, you may type your questions in the Q&A box. Your questions will be entertained after the e-talk. Thank you for your kind cooperation and attention. So, without further ado, let me introduce to you our resource speaker. He is a registered guidance counselor. He earned his bachelor's degree in psychology in 1995, Master of Education major in guidance and counseling in 2000, and Doctor of Philosophy in Education, major in administration in 2015, all in Silliman University. As a guidance counselor, he provides professional help with the aim to assist and facilitate the student's personal growth towards holistic integration for a quality education. Aside from this, he is also a trainer, facilitator, organizer, coordinator, and so many other skills and competencies. Presently, he is the director of the Guidance and Testing Division, Silliman University, guidance counselor of Silliman University graduate programs, and president of the Philippine Guidance and Counseling Association, Negros Oriental and Siquijor chapter. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me to virtually welcome Dr. Jarvik Clavano Raffles.
Good noon, everyone, and thank you for inviting me, Silliman University Library, and our partnership with the Guidance and Testing Division. Now I'm here to share to you some insightful psychoeducational information entitled Coping with Stress During the COVID-19 Pandemic, a Guide for Mental Wellness. As you enjoy your lunch, I hope you still listen and find some insight in our talk today. Next slide, please. All right, I'll be sharing to you what's our flow for our talk today. So it comes with three parts. First is we talk about what's so important about stress, what is the psychological impact of the quarantine or the lockdown that some of us have experienced, or right now Manila is having a quarantine, or is what we call ECQ, Enhanced Community Quarantine. And then of course, we talk about we may develop mental health issues because of stressors that we experience. Actually, the stressors that we experience right now are actually already compounded. We have experienced stress even before pandemic. Now, with this pandemic, more stressors are coming in. That's why some of us are having some challenges when we talk about mental health. And third is how to maintain mental health and well-being. So, basic definition when you talk about stress, stress is a mental, physical, or biochemical response to perceived threat or demand. Actually, there are two types of stress. We have this what we call good stress or eustress, something that excites us, motivates us. For example, if you are surprised with something and you're quite excited, you feel good about it, and that's what you call eustress. And what's very common, or some of us have experienced, is this what we call distress or the negative stress. Or this is very common, something that brings unpleasant experience to us, and it's called distress. Next slide. Sources of stress that we are experiencing at present is, of course, major is the risk of being infected. That's why even up to now, we are being extra careful not to be infected with the virus. And of course, we have that in our mind that hopefully we will not be infected with the COVID-19 virus. And then of course, the fear of becoming sick. And we, based on data by the World Health Organization, many have died due to COVID-19 virus. And we actually have that kind of fear, and it's causing a lot of stressor to us. And the fear of losing our loved ones. And in the Philippines, numbers are rising in terms of death rate because of the virus. And I hope it won't happen to any one of us watching in our eTalk right now. And then, of course, the prospect of financial hardship. Now that we are experiencing this pandemic stress, some of us are challenged financially. We cannot, our movements are lesser now, so we are challenged in terms of gaining extra income, or especially our parents or the students. Your parents are challenged financially compared to when we don't have this pandemic. And then the stress of work from home. And some of us are actually experiencing stress when they work at home because we tend to combine the work situation and of course the home situation. And then we get to mix our routine activities. And it's causing a lot of stress. And for students taking online classes, or this what we call distance online learning, it can also be a big stressor because we need to keep up with the demands of our the subjects. Because every subject is giving you a lot of requirements. Because some classes are doing synchronous approach, therefore we are expected to come up with an output. So that's a bit of a challenge for the students. Next slide. According to Rosian Kapana Hodge, a clinical psychologist, our stressors are already compounded, have really taken a toll. Nation that already was at all time with stress. So with the pandemic right now, we are even more challenged in terms of how to cope with our day-to-day stressor. So next slide, please. So coping with stress infectious disease outbreaks are actually the following. Next slide. All right. So in the wake of the infectious disease outbreak, monitoring your physical and mental health is of importance. So it's really important to keep monitoring our mental health and also our physical health. Next slide. Know the signs of stress in yourself and your loved ones, how to relieve stress and how to get help is really important at this time. According to the World Health Organization, these are the physical signs of stress. So if you experience headache, stomach ache, back pain, upset stomach, heavy chest pain, tight muscles are this is what we call psychosomatic illnesses. And this is very common every time that our stress are heightened by a certain situation. So, yep, next slide. Signs of stress when we talk about behavioral is an increase or decrease in your energy activity. You used to be very active in the past and then suddenly you changes in our behavior. You tend to just keep yourself in your room and not doing anything. Most of the time you engage in social media. So an increase in your alcohol or tobacco use. So if you're into this, so an increase in irritability with outbursts of anger frequently. So this is, if you have observed your behavior, like things are changing, you tend to be irritated easily, then that's already a sign that you are having a high stress. Having trouble relaxing of sleeping, or sometimes you cry without any apparent reason. So you worry a lot. You don't know where the worry is coming from. Wanting to be alone most of the time, blaming other people for everything, and then having difficulty communicating or listening to others are some of the common signs that you have this what we call behavioral manifestations of stress. Next slide. So what can we do to take control of our stressors? That's why I'm here. Based on my present practice and the insight that I got from our mental health experts, so I'll be sharing to you some tips on how to control your stressors, or this is what we call how to self-regulate our emotions, our psychological well-being. So first is this what we call, you have to take control. So how do you take control? During this time of stress, pay attention to your own needs and feelings. Avoid overexposure to electronic screens. So I think by now you have encountered some resources that telling you that overexposure to technology can actually give you a lot of stressor, especially to your eyes. So it has an impact on your physical health. Then don't also overdo the naps. So sometimes because we have more time to ourselves, we tend to actually sleep more than 8 hours. So probably some of you can sleep, you sleep around 2 a.m., then you wake up at 11, then you still have the naps. So don't overdo that. The most actually advice for us to have the nap is what we call power nap, which is only 15 minutes. Then limit media intake and focus on the positive information that you can get. So what I mean by this is there's a lot of toxic information that you get online, especially that if you engage on, for example, Facebook, Twitter, or some social apps that talks about social toxicity. So please avoid that. Instead, listen to relaxing music or anything that suits your nerves. So that's very important. Next slide. So take care of your body. So have some physical routine like exercise, regular exercise. You don't really have to go to the gym because we're into pandemic right now. But even at home, you can do some basic exercises that will not take so much of your time. Probably 30 minutes is already good enough. Or if you can extend it for an hour, that's very good. Practice healthy living habits such as eating healthy and balanced food intake, more vegetables, fruits, and lessen the meat intake. And that's one way to take care of our body, so that we will avoid having high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or high uric acid. Then avoid stressors that triggers you. So what are your triggers? You have to know what triggers you, that actually irritates you or annoy you. Avoid these things, such as probably you are irritated with loud noise. So if you can avoid being in an area where it can irritate your senses, then please avoid, because it can actually trigger your stressor. Then of course, keep regular sleep routines. So I know it's hard at this time to keep a regular sleeping routine because of our, we have more time to ourselves now. So we tend to not sleep on time. So, but you need to actually sleep at least 7 to 8 hours a day. And that's proven, evidence-based, that actually the sleep can actually help us not only on our physical health, but also on our mental state. Next slide. And then don't forget to be connected with people. That's really important because, you know, as social being, we need to connect with people around us. So who are your networks? You need to have your bubble, the people that are close to you, so that you can keep in touch with them, you talk to them, you can actually relate with them, share your stories, validate your experience to them. In that manner, you are stay connected and you have the support system all the time. Next slide. So I will be teaching some techniques to actually self-regulate your emotions. So what you have here on the screen is a scale when to know that your stressors are already high. For example, number one here, when you experience that you're still relaxed, you can still manage your emotions and your tensions in your body, because stress is part and parcel of our everyday life, and it's normal to have stress. But then, of course, if the stressors are too high, then we get to experience some body tensions. Two is when you actually experience some uh, feet and or hands clench or nervous feeling on your body. So that's scale number two. And then third is rapid breathing, or you experience some headache, and that's already a sign that you are having high stress. And if it's a pattern, meaning every day you have experienced that, then that's a sign that you need to self-regulate your emotions or what you experience. And number four scale is already a bit high.
Nagamit si Sir og
Feel crying, yelling, sweating. So that's scale number four. And the five here is when you are already uh, experiencing some fears and you don't know where is it coming from, and you're having a hard time to sleep. So that's a big sign that you need some help in terms of how to self-regulate your emotions. Next slide. So how to stay calm when emotions overwhelm you. So we have some techniques that I'll be sharing to you. Next slide. This one, actually, I have practiced this during the quarantine period last year when we have the ECQ here in our community. So it's called grounding technique. And to my surprise, it helps manage my emotions, because during the pandemic, you cannot help avoiding such emotions such as you don't know why you feel so tired, you don't know why you tend to be irritated. And then when I discovered practicing some grounding technique, it helps me actually to self-regulate my emotions. And it's just very simple. Find a space, can be indoor or outdoor, and practice this what they call stay grounded using the five senses or the five steps. First is five things you can see. So look around your surroundings and identify the five things you can identify. Like right now, I'm looking at the water bottle, the table, the chair, and then the laptop here, and the air conditioning. So at least you are grounded. You know what's happening around you. Identify five objects or things, and then four things you can actually feel. So meaning to say, or four things that you can touch, like you can touch the table, the book, or some things that are very close to you. You feel the texture, and in that manner you are grounded, and you know that you are having that presence at that moment, and you know that you are there. Because sometimes when the emotions are actually heightened, anxiety kicks in, then we tend to have this anxiety attack for some people who are experiencing that. And the grounding technique can bring them to a certain presence. So, and then the third is three things you can actually hear. So you can hear the sound of the aircon, for example, or the bird outside, or any sound that you can identify. So that's the third thing. And then the second is two things you can smell. So you can smell the air or anything that you can smell that will give you actually a good sense that you can have that sense of smell. And then the last is one thing that you can taste, or probably you want to drink a water or grab some fruit that you can taste. Not This is not a practice where you have to know whether you don't have the COVID, because some of the symptoms of COVID is you don't have that sense of smell or sense of taste. But actually, this is a grounding technique. If you do this regularly, it has a big impact in your emotions. So it keeps you actually have that positive vibe, because sometimes we need to balance our serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin. These are chemicals in our brain, and this is a technique that can actually help us to regulate our emotions. Next slide. And this one also I practice if I have problems sleeping. It's called 847 breathing. So before sleeping, you can actually do this, or after early in the morning, you can have the breathing technique. So part of the grounding or the self-regulation management technique is this what we call 847 breathing. So how do we do this? So exhale deeply, loudly through the mouth for 8 seconds. So you exhale for 8 seconds, you count using your fingers, and then you inhale through the nose for 4 seconds, and then you hold your breath for 7 seconds. You practice this for about, let's say, you start with 5 minutes until you can increase to 10 minutes. So every day it will bring a good impact on your well-being if you do the breathing technique, especially that if you have that anxiety feeling. So 847 breathing technique can actually help. Next slide. These are some examples of the breathing technique. You can also use this. Inhale 1 to 2 as beginners, and then you purse your lips. Then, of course, breathe out slowly. So this is just also one technique that you can use on the inhale and exhale breathing. Next slide. So another technique is when you're seated for the people working or students. So you can actually use this technique. Sit or stand with your elbows slightly back. Inhale deeply, breathing, and then hold your breath as long as you can hold it. Like some of you can actually hold up to 15 seconds or 30 seconds. And then, of course, exhale. So these are some variations that you can do when we talk about the breathing technique, aside from the 847 technique. Yeah. Another technique, this is what we call progressive muscle relaxation. It really helps when you have already the body tension. So anywhere you can do this. You can actually do it at home or at work. You can do the progressive muscle relaxation. So how do we do this? This technique concentrates on the muscle tension that needs to be relaxed. You slowly tense a muscle group and then relax that muscle group. So how do we go about this? You can start with your face, like you scrunch your face, and then as much as you can, and then you slowly release it. Or your back, you tense the muscle from your back by stretching like this as far as you can, and then you slowly release. And you can actually feel some tension being released in your body. Like sometimes we don't pay attention to our body when we're working, and we need to release some tensions. And this progressive muscle relaxation technique can actually help a lot. Like most of the time, we are faced on the computer or a laptop, while we actually forget to flex our muscles. So the progressive muscle relaxation, very simple. You can do it at home while seated in front of your computer, so you can relax those muscle. Or you extend your hand forward, then tense that muscle, and then you slowly release down. So you can actually feel some tension being released without you knowing it. So that's what we call progressive muscle relaxation. This technique is actually being used for people who have high anxiety to calm them down. So if you can practice this regularly, I myself personally, I'm doing it on a regular basis, like, especially when I'm in the office. I always find time, like every 30 minutes, I stop working and I have to release those tension in my body. Yeah, next slide. Yeah, these are some models that you can see here on how to do the progressive muscle relaxation technique. Yeah, next slide. And another discovery which I've been practicing lately is this what we call to release the anxiety and stress in our body. Is you point your point finger and then put it on your ears, and then you press it both ears, left and right, before sleeping. Actually, you do this, and I'm doing it every day. And to my surprise, I always have a good sleep every time I do this. I learned this as a Chinese practice to actually relieve stress and anxiety. Like you keep on doing, pressing your ears inside like this for about a minute before sleeping. And I hope you do this and let me know if it's effective for you, because to my surprise, it's really effective for me. I always have good sleep every time I do the technique. So this is something I have learned recently from a Chinese medical practitioner. So, and then of course, we cannot avoid it. As social being, we need to talk to someone. That's why you need to have a bubble group, a social group that you can connect with. Yes. And yeah, that's about it. There's so many things, many insights that you can get online, but these are some techniques, basic, but it can actually have an impact on our well-being. So if you keep on practicing this, what we call um, grounding technique, and this what we call muscle relaxation technique or the self-regulation technique, it can help us to balance our stressor on a day-to-day basis. So that's all the information I'm sharing you. As students, I hope you can practice this. And also the Silliman community, you can learn from this basic technique. And let me know if it works for you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Dr. Raffles, for sharing your time, knowledge, and expertise. Indeed, our topic is very helpful, especially this time of pandemic. This pandemic is changing the lives of people, including the lives of our young people. Now, it is time to entertain questions. Let, let us check the Q&A box. Sir, the first question is, I am pharmacy freshman student The stressor in my life right now is a human element, and he is within the family. I am still dependent on his help, but his anger management problem is causing so much stress. What will I do to avoid him?
Yeah, thank you for that question that you have raised. Actually, it's very common at this time of pandemic that we are forced to be at home most of the time together with our family members, and some family members are not always perfect. We have this what we call some on our environment. There are people who are toxic and non-toxic, but somehow we have to deal with them because they're part and parcel of our family dynamics. So in that manner, uh, you cannot actually control the person because that's his or her response to a certain situation or stressor in life. But you can actually control how to deal with the situation. You need to say, you need to manage your own emotions, like what triggers you. And when you identify what triggers you, then you need to find ways how to avoid those triggers so that you will have a lesser impact in terms of dealing with the stressors. I know it's not easy because the person or you live with that person almost like 24/7. So you're with that person, but somehow you need to change how you respond to the stressors. Meaning to say, if there's a stimulus, there is a response. So in between, we have this what we call mindfulness. So meaning to say, before giving your reactions or your actions to a certain stimulus, you have to find ways whether is it proper to actually react negatively to that person because it might also again impact your own mental well-being. So in that manner, you need to know uh, when to actually not say anything, uh, reflect whether it's proper to retaliate or give response to something negative already. Because if the situation is already kind of the tension is already high, and then if you bring another tension, it will escalate. So in that manner, what you can do is manage your own personal emotions. Find ways like the technique that I have shared to you might probably help you somehow to cope with the situation. Thank you.
Thank you for that answer, sir. Sir, another question. What are signs if it is time to get help with stress?
All right. Stress is part and parcel of our lives. It's normal to have stress, but then if it's giving you some physical symptoms or even behavioral symptoms, then if you cannot manage it, then the best is to talk to someone that you can trust. And in the university, if you are a student and if you are enrolled, we have guidance counselors can actually help process your emotions and validate what you have experienced at present. So you connect with them. We have a virtual office. If you are officially enrolled, we have this what we call guidance and testing division window where you can be connected with your guidance counselor. And right now, we cannot do the face-to-face counseling, but we have an approach called telebehavioral counseling, where you can actually schedule a telebehavioral counseling with your guidance counselor. So you have someone to talk to professionally, helping you how to process your emotions and to deal with the situation with a balanced mindset. Yeah.
Okay, sir. For students, you can go to the guidance and
They're
testing
guidance counselors because we have guidance
guidance counselor.
counselors from early childhood to the graduate programs. And if you visit the virtual office, you can actually look for your guidance counselor and get to know your guidance counselor.
Okay, sir. Another question. What happens when stress becomes chronic?
Yeah, actually, stress starts with it's actually a degree, meaning to say it can also comes with a spectrum. We have this what we call general adaptation syndrome. If there's a stressor, the normal response of the body is to cope with the stressor, and that's pretty normal. But if you are bombarded with stress every day, like it becomes a pattern and you're not doing anything about it, it will give you some chronic manifestations of physical health. And it can be a form of this what we call psychosomatic, such as headache, stomach ache, butterflies on the stomach, you get LBM, you experience any pain in the body. That's the physical pain. The emotional part there is you tend to cry without you knowing what's the main reason, or sometimes at the middle of the night, you wake up and you feel having that anxiety or the fear of not knowing where is it coming from. So that's already a bit chronic. And if you will not do anything about it, it might lead to more serious mental health issues. And we don't want to reach to the point that you might experience this what we call depression, because depression is a clinical term. So in that manner, you need professional help. Either talk to your guidance counselor at first, and if it's something already that needs other experts, such as you need to seek a psychologist or perhaps a psychiatrist, but that's already to that extreme if you have reached that far. So, yeah, well, the best is you have to connect with someone that you can actually trust. And of course, again, in the university, you have your guidance counselors to lean on when you are challenged emotionally or mentally. Either pressures academically or personal, your guidance counselors are there to assist you on this aspect. Matters on psycho, social, emotional concerns. Yeah.
Okay. Sir, before stress can affect ourselves, we have to consult the experts right away. Thank you for that, sir. Another question is, this is from God's will. I remember the grounding technique you taught me, and I am still doing it during my quiet time every morning after waking up. My question is that how important do you think is the implementation of a reflective state or moments, especially the practice of journaling every night as a way of debriefing yourself?
There's a lot of ways to actually release our stressors. There's a lot of, it can be in, these are therapeutic approaches. Can be, if you're more comfortable doing it into writing, then that's really good. But some people may not be into writing that much, so they can actually release it to the form of art, or maybe sketching, painting, or drawing. That's also a form of meditation, because in doing that, it allows you to be on a state where you just have to release all those worries on your head without thinking of anything. You just have to create something. Or some of you can actually, so many things, like probably you want to do some gardening. Right now, some people are hooked into plants. We have plantitos and plantitas around, and it gives them a certain happiness, good vibes when they see greens and plants growing, different kinds. So these are actually therapeutic approaches to manage our stressors. And as you all know, we get good energies when we are surrounded with our environment, especially having plants or trees.
Sige, sir. Thank you for that. Another question uh, from an anonymous. Many of us are suffering depression because a family member has been diagnosed with COVID and even death in the family, especially that death in the family is to be buried immediately. Are there any changes on how a family can cope up to all this?
Yeah, in this pandemic time, it's a big concern when we are confronted with a family member who lost their lives due to COVID. And the impact to us is not that easy psychologically, emotionally. It can bring a lot of challenges or toll on our mental health. And in this manner, it's important to always have a core group or a support group who can help us. That's why there are a lot of organizations right now who actually make it as their advocacy to do psychosocial support, because that's where you need this kind of support, where you have to talk to someone and tell your stories, validate your stories in terms of what you feel, how you think about it. Uh, that is part of our lives as human beings. But then the impact of this may have different degrees for some people. To a lesser or greater degree, we have different ways of coping. So that's why it's best that you need to have that support group in your community when things, or someone who died from COVID, and it's really a big challenge. It will took a lot of probably time for them to recover. That's why they need our support, especially those people that needs someone to talk to. They just have to validate that experience and their stories to someone. And that's why we have the guidance counselors again, and psychologists around, and some professional people who can actually help you in times of this crisis, because not all of us are trained how to do the process. So if you seek a professional help to do this, there's a big actually help for people to recover faster.
Okay, sir, thank you. Any more questions from the participants? If there is none, so let's go to the presentation of certificate. Let me read the citation. Okay. Silliman University Library System Certificate of Recognition is presented to Jarovic C. Raffles in grateful recognition and sincere appreciation as speaker during the library eTalk with the topic Coping with Stress, a Guide to Mental Wellness, held at My Soul Virtual Library, Silliman University on April 7, 2021. Signed, Dr. Earl Jude Paul L. Cleope, OIC University Librarian, Vice President for Academic Affairs.
Once again, thank you for inviting. And with our partnership with the Silliman University Library, this is already the seventh series of our partnership. So we still have more e-talk with the other counselors who can teach you a lot of psychoeducational information beneficial for our balanced mental health. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure being with all of you today. Thank you very much. On behalf of the Silliman University Library, I would like to express my appreciation to our resource speaker, Dr. Jarovic Lavano Raffles, Head of the Guidance and Testing Division, for collaborating with the Silliman University Library System. To my colleagues in the library, thank you so much for your cooperation for making this activity a success. God bless us all and stay safe. Thank you, everyone.